Hey everyone, how's it going? On today's episode, we've got one of the most respected writers here in the Valley, Christina Barrueta. She wrote the Arizona wine book, as well as the brand new book coming out, Phoenix Cooks. Make sure to follow her on social media at On Rubee, as well as A Taste of AZ. Let's jump into her podcast.
Christina is our guest today. Christina is an amazing person just to be around. And that's not even including all the awesome beer stuff you do. Or food. I said beer, food, wine, whatever.
A smattering of beer.
Yes. Christina, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You are you're one of our favorite writers. Now, Luke and I have wrote a little bit. Luke more than me, so we're partial to ourselves. But I'm just kidding.
I have that AZ beer book, and I agree. The writing is really great. You did such a great job, Luke, on that.
Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. We had a great editor who has some local connections, if you will. So it was nice to have someone editing it that had the context of what we were writing about.
Yeah. Thank you. And to come from somebody who's also an author, that meant a lot to us. So we will get into that. But first of all, tell us what is your name and what is it that you do?
My name is Christina Barrueta. I'm a writer. I freelance right now, mainly writing for like the Scottsdale Visitors Bureau and Phoenix Home and Garden. They're like chef series, or if they do a cocktail. My last cocktail was actually a shandy, so a beer cocktail.
Oh, nice.
Yep. It incorporated, have you guys been to the Americano?
No.
Okay,
There's
one of my favorite places.
We haven't been. You're going to tell us all the good places to go, Christina.
Yes. So I capped the lead bar guy there, Christopher Cuestas, and he came up with a great cocktail using Arizona vodka, our favorite mezcal with Mezcal Carreño with that Arizona tie, and Helton Brewery. So,
oh, nice.
Yes. So I figured you'd like to know about that particular beer cocktail.
I would like to have that particular beer cocktail right about now. Yeah.
It's really good. They do a version of it at the restaurant.
Where is that again? Americano?
It's on Scottsdale Road.
Okay.
It opened right before COVID hit. But every time we've gone, there's been a lot of support for them. They have a great team, so definitely check them out. And that beer shandy, it's a little different, but their version is on the cocktail menu.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Very
what beers
nice.
are used?
What is it? The pale ale, I believe.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, Pilsner. It's the Pilsner.
The Pilsner.
Okay.
Pilsner. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that is on my list now. Christina's list grows and grows and grows, and it is my goal to hit them all. So that's where did it all start though? Where did your writing? Have you been doing it for a long time?
Well, I did it as kind of a hobby back in Boston when I lived in Boston. I did write for a digital travel magazine back then, but I was a prolific contributor to our local Chowhound Boston board.
Okay.
And when I moved here in 2008, one of the first dinner events I found, and I immediately made reservations for, was a locavore dinner at Topino. I don't know if you guys remember Topino back then, but they had local, cheesemakers and ranchers and farmers and dairies and wineries. And my husband invited his son and daughter-in-law, and they invited their friends, Ronnie and Josh Moffitt, who just happened to be starting up an Arizona wine magazine. So it was very serendipitous timing because they were looking for somebody to write about food and restaurants, and they had read my, my Boston food board writings, and they said, "Hey, would you like to write for us?" So it was really a fortunate circumstance. So I'd been here a month and immediately had my first gig in print, which, as you know, is very hard to get nowadays.
Yes, it is. Well, where did it? But what? When you started writing food in Boston, was there something that drew you specifically to food? Was an opportunity of like, hey, here's a job, and it just happens to be food, or were you like how I am, where I'm like, I have to make my career food so I can eat everything that I want to, right?
I think I fell into it. I was just intrigued. I mean, even as a kid, though, I would read like back issues of Gourmet Magazine and Bon Appetit back then, and I watched all the cooking shows. as a kid. My mother's a phenomenal cook. My brother's a great cook. My dad worked in a kitchen. So my family dines out a lot. We grew up, Mom would make, Sunday afternoon fondue, or, she would go to a restaurant and recreate the dish. So I've always had an appreciation for food. And then as I got older and traveled, this food board was a really good step off of that, because our motto was, we live to eat, not eat to live.
Yeah. Yep.
So, we'd have a group of friends who would say, hey, want to go to Chinatown and try a 7-course Hong Kong seafood dinner? Sure. And, people would meet together. So it was a really educational group too. I learned a lot hanging around with, all the different the people of different cultures, introducing their food. We would do get-togethers, and we even did a New York potluck where we brought some of the things from Boston up to New York, and we had it right in Manhattan at one of the outdoor, I think it was a brewery. But so I just was always, I just love learning about it, and obviously eating.
Yeah. Right. Well, that is a funny thing. I'm real envious of people who are like, food's fuel. I'm like, I wish food was just fuel for me. Sometimes it's the opposite, because I eat so much of it that it is the opposite of fuel, But,
yeah, it makes it hard when, I'm at home and, what do I feel like? Well, I really feel like that Sichuan dish at that restaurant I had 3 years ago, or I feel like, I just saw Little Miss Barbecue's brisket. Now I want that. So
yeah.
I wish I could sometimes just eat what's in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you move out. How was the food scene when you moved out here in 2008? Because that's the same. I moved here in October of 2007.
Okay. So you were here just a few months before. I was January 2008.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I really didn't, I didn't really get into craft beer and craft food and things like that really until, I don't know, maybe 2011 or so. But you're much more deep into this. Obviously right from the get-go when you get hired on for that. So what was the food scene like when you got here?
Well, because we have family here, which is one of the reasons we moved. We originally were going to go back and forth, but we just,
gotcha.
That's when the economy started its downhill trend back in 2008. So on our trips out here, we had dined at some of the great restaurants. I remember Michael's at the Citadel, which is still, was at one of the restaurant forefronts back then. So I knew there was a great food scene. Soli Sombra was over at, I forget what that, Market Street, I think. So there, I could see glimmers of the talent here. But the difference from when I moved to now is just astronomical.
Yeah.
It's amazing, the growth and the support of all the chefs with each other. The farmers markets, they've multiplied since I moved here.
Yeah.
I remember there weren't that many craft cocktail bars when I moved here. So all those things, craft breweries, the distillers, the farmers, the ranchers, artisans, we're pretty lucky now.
Yeah. Yes, we are. Yes. Up where I live, we actually got 3 breweries now. Up until a year ago, we had none. Now we have 3. I'm like, this is great. Instantly, So, and, it's great because there's a lot of, I don't know, you feel the inspiration when you're in those places, right? You have, Mario from Osteria Mia come out and talk to you and give you a bag of pasta. And you're like, dude, this is amazing. The guy who made this is giving me a bag of it. So what do you think made the change? What do you think changed? Because my experience is very limited. My experience is basically Arizona. And then when I go to other cities, obviously I look, but you seem to have been embedded in a few of the bigger cities' food cultures. How does it compare to those other places?
Well, I think Arizona is special in a lot of ways. One of the things that surprised me, and I know still surprises people, are our 2 growing seasons. One of my first dinners, I remember I was at J&G Steakhouse, which is a high-end steakhouse. And I was so impressed how fancy it was that it had local tomatoes in December.
Yeah.
Well, of course, after a few months, I learned that everybody has local tomatoes in December because, Arizona has these amazing farms and growers and producers. So I think that makes Arizona special. Because people are motivated to support that and, grow new things and try this out and see what works in the desert. And see what goes with our local goat cheese or our, our homegrown dates. So I think that has really helped kickstart it. And then I think the chef's camaraderie.
Yeah.
They really support each other. And, and as each chef gets legitimized, that inspires and gives confidence to the up and coming chefs that, hey, we can make this food and people will get it. So I think that's what we see a lot.
Yeah. And that's not very, I wouldn't see that being very common in the restaurant industry of like, oh, you're just opening a place across the street. Great, man. Let me know what you need. Right. Like that seems like a trick. It's like, what, are you setting me up for something? But
I've interviewed chefs who have said that. I've worked in San Francisco, I've worked in Chicago, and it's not the same. They've told me that it just seems like here everybody, is behind each other. I think Chef Dushyant Singh, who's works at the Palomar, he said, it's almost like one dream, one team mentality here in Arizona. So yeah, I do too.
Absolutely. Wonder what makes that difference. I mean, what made I don't know, sometimes it's that perfect storm, right? Of just whatever it is, you can't explain it and it seems to work, because we see it across industries, breweries, everything, right? Mm-hmm. One of the best things I think could happen for a brewery is for another brewery to open up, right? To be able to, because that's drawing people, because you don't go, it's not like a gas station, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get gas here, and then I'm going to go there. There's 2 other gas stations. But you do that with breweries or restaurants, right? So it brings people, it brings that traffic.
Yes, I totally agree. And it, you feel like it's a community as opposed to a competition.
Sure. Yep. That can go downhill real quick. I've seen, but so over the years of doing this, in Arizona now, you've gotten an opportunity to write beyond just print as far as magazine, right? You've written 2 books?
Yes. My Arizona wine book, it's mainly history, but I did I sat down and recorded hours and hours of interviews with different winemakers. I wish I could have done everybody, but when you have a publisher, you have a set amount of words, and I did it all myself, with pictures, and then some very, very generous, talented photography friends who also contributed the photos. Nice. And just, visiting all the wineries and getting it done within my deadline. It was a lot of work, but, I wanted people to realize that's another thing you hear all the time. Still, we have wine in Arizona. We have wineries.
Yes.
And we have over 100. Different.
Over 100? Wow. I did not know that.
Wineries. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So you have
That's something that we kind of learned with the book is, the example that I always use, and I probably used it on the podcast multiple times before, but a lot of people don't even realize that growlers are a thing. Whereas if you're a craft beer person, that's the first thing you do is accumulate 4 or 5 different growlers and then only ever use one of them. But it's crazy how much education there still is room for. Whether it be wine or beer or even craft spirits that are being made locally.
I agree. And my first growler I ever bought was at Craft 64.
Oh, nice.
Exactly. Places like that are amazing.
Yeah.
I think I remember James describing to me what a growler was because I didn't realize. So.
Yeah. Well, I've seen people looking, I'm like, oh, what is that? What is that? I'll think, oh, I can fill that and take it home. Yeah, absolutely. How many beers are there? There's 4, but yeah, you'll probably get to 2 of them, but yeah.
Yeah, we have some amazing beers. I went to, have you been to the Peoria Artisan Brewery? You guys have been there, right?
Yeah, they were one of the first episodes of Tap That AZ. Matt was, they're great. Yeah,
they're great. And they're only a few, for me, 18 minutes away. That's close where I live. So I just had their honeysuckle amber and loved it. Chef picked it out for me to go with what I was eating that day, and it's perfect. Yes.
They've got really good food. That's another good thing.
He's not your average brew pub chef for sure. He's pretty sophisticated and talented. Yep.
The shrimp and grits. I remember the shrimp and grits. That was one of the things that really drew me back. I'm like, the beer was really good, but those shrimp and grits, that's what pulled me back into it. What was it? So how long did it take you to do that first book, the wine book? I know they gave you a time
they gave me 2. Yeah, they gave me 2 years.
Okay, but you already accumulated a bunch of knowledge before then, just from your adventures, I guess?
Well, when I first started writing for AZ Wine Lifestyle magazine, it was actually AZ Wines and Vines when I started. I did that for about 8 years.
Okay.
And so I had met a lot of the winemakers through that. You know, I would go with Ronnie, the publisher, who became one of my best friends. We would go down to the vineyards and drop them off, you know, by hand. So
yeah,
I got to meet a lot of chefs. As what I wrote, I wasn't a critic. I was allowed to find a restaurant I liked that sold Arizona wine. And if it was something I think people should know about, I could write the spotlight article. So it was all about supporting. And so I got to know, you know, the different vineyards, and always had a little, you know, my foot in the door of Arizona wine since 2008. So
yeah. So when it come time to do a wine book about Arizona, there's only one choice.
Right. So I was excited to put a spotlight on it that way, but you know, I didn't have all the research then. So to go to the different vineyards and wineries, which was really fun. I mean, there's so many here, and they each have their own personality, and you know, you might have ones up like Page Springs, which is on this burbling, you know, creek with desert oak trees. And then you go down to the high plains at like Rune Wines, and he has his in an airplane hangar on a beautiful plateau. And it's just really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that really gravitated towards you and your work, and just you as a person, like we said, was that focus on the highlight, the positive highlight, helping to build the community up. Right. I think unless you're a really good food critic, and there's some really good food critics out there, it's a tough gig, right? Sometimes it's just a matter of like, I just want to find the negative. Well, why? Why do you want to find the negative? Find the positive.
Or they try to be clever. Like I understand being honest, but I hate when they try to be witty as they're insulting somebody's livelihood. That drives me crazy. So there are great critics who, you know their food, and then there's other critics who that's my other pet peeve. They don't know that food or that cuisine, yet you know, they're saying things that aren't true, and you know, people will believe them, but
there are millions of them, right?
Yes.
Literally now there's actual websites full of them, of these qualified critics. Yeah. Well, because for being a writer who is a legitimate writer, respected, award-winning writer, to now everybody's a food writer, right? Everybody wants to hear my opinion about this place, right? Well, I don't care what Right On Rubee said. I thought it was horrible.
Yes. It's fine. Everybody likes their own thing. My husband and I have different tastes, and people joke that he should start a website saying, "What did Ernesto think?"
Yeah. I hope he has that URL. What did Ernesto think? Yeah. But it's true. And from, I don't know, if in your mind, if you're doing this when you're writing, but it's the same as with us, right? We want to paint that picture of here's the experience that we had, here's the experience that they create. Have your own experience, right?
Right.
You know, I don't know.
That's what I try to do, is just a snapshot. You know, this is what it looks like. This is why I love the chef, and then people make their own decisions. I mean, food is so subjective. Yeah. I mean, how can you know, if somebody recommended a restaurant and I didn't like it, I wouldn't hold that against them. Sure. You know, for all you know, it could have been a bad day that day. You know, maybe they had a supplier that didn't come in, somebody who called in sick, you know. Yep. I don't think it's fair to judge a restaurant, you know, unless you could tell it was very careless and they didn't care about food. But I mean, I don't seek those places out.
No. I'm just going to go ahead and just erase this off of my history on my map here. I didn't even go to this place. Yeah.
When I write about food, it's all about, wow, the chef is gifted because he did that, or she incorporates her, you know, her mother in that recipe. And, you know, and it all boils down to Phoenix. We have something amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. We really do it. Well, and even out, like, I don't know. I can't remember the first year I was maybe here. No, maybe 6 months I was here. I didn't even, you know, I was just in Phoenix, but luckily my in-laws, who are now my in-laws, lived in Flagstaff. So I got to see Flagstaff, and they took me places there, and my wife has family in Tucson. So I was able to forcibly be taken to those places, right?
Oh, nice.
Not against my will or anything.
Yeah. I love Flagstaff too. And Tucson.
Yeah. there's a lot of, and not mean this in a bad way, but we think a lot of these places in Phoenix and Scottsdale and things like that. But man, and Flagstaff, there are some phenomenal places, Tucson and everywhere in between. Like there's so many places. And what I think it's cool, and what we one of the reasons we like to cover things and what's cool about, writers like you is when somebody's going to go, they might mark a spot on their map on an article that you wrote 2 years ago. And then they're going to press and they're like, oh shit, remember that? Christina told us about this wine place, right? So you're giving people these little experiences that might sometimes be overlooked.
Yeah, I actually need to kind of do a post on that that I can put up on the website, because I get that question all the time. And my schedule is so busy. I know there's people I never answered, or, oh yeah, I'll get back to you. I always feel bad, but I do get that, daily.
Of like,
I'm going out for I'm going out for my anniversary. Where should I go? I'm headed up to Sedona. Where should I eat? Oh, you know what? I just remembered I was supposed to get back to somebody on that. Shoot. But yeah, we have such little gems, usually this time of the year, we've been up to Sedona 4 or 5 times, but we're hoping, when things get back to normal. And Tucson, I just think, has amazing restaurants and craft cocktail culture down there too.
Yeah, they really do. And it's what I love about Tucson too is they're really doing a good job of preserving that downtown, that urban area, or the urban area, I guess you could say, the downtown with where Pueblo Vita and 1055 and all those places. It's cool because you get that vibe of you're in a city, but it still holds that culture and
right.
I didn't
so
know
much history and.
Yeah. Well, I read that it was, I knew that they had what was it, the first ever in the U.S. of the city of gastronomy?
Yeah, UNESCO. Yeah. The heritage city of gastronomy. And yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I didn't know also that was the longest, would they say the longest agriculturally farmed piece of land like in the country or something, continuously farmed.
Like Sonoran wheat. Which now we're used to seeing it because we have Hayden Mill flour mills, and then we have, Sonoran Pasta Company using it, chefs using it. But really that's a big deal where that wheat came from and that the heritage behind that.
When do you think that came about? Like the whole, because you started seeing chefs like Brett Vibber and Tamara Stanger and these chefs and Charlene Badman, they're all doing things where they're using ingredients. Is that something that is kind of, I won't say newer, but has that been the trend the whole time?
I think it grew because these hardworking farmers, let's say found one, chef who bought their products. Yeah. And then another chef tried it. And then another chef tried it, and then people started writing about it. So, it's kind of that synergy between each other and how the chefs support, even if it's, especially the small producers, because they can't go to a big resort, and have enough product for that person. So they have to get, these little farm to table restaurants, or actually any restaurant, who can try something and say, wow, that's really unique and that represents Arizona. Yeah. And, I'm going to do my part in spreading the word. And that's what I love about Arizona.
Yeah, it is cool. When we've talked to, different farmers, and that they seem to always mention, there's one or two each of them mentioned that you can see the appreciation from them. Like if it wasn't for these guys, like, being the person to come and start trying things and recommend me to this guy, it never would have happened, but like Mark Ryan says, he's like, I'm not getting rich from this. He's like, this is hard work, and
it's a labor of love for sure.
Yeah. I'm like, dude,
and then you get hail, or you get a frost, and then do you start all over? Do you throw your hands up in the air? It's the same with the wine growers when that happens. I know Callaghan Vineyards just got hit by a really bad hailstorm and lost a lot of grapes. Always like, oh, those guys, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. You gotta. I watched a video the other day of one of my favorite musicians, and I think he's like 50 now. And the guy they were interviewing him, and he's like, "So the song sounded very meditative." He's like, "Anybody who is in music after 30 years meditates. He's like, I don't even whether to say it or not. Right. And I think the same thing with food and beverage. That's a brutal industry. It really is. Like, low margins. And like you said, a hailstorm can just dissipate everything. And now they're the ones being hit the hardest. I won't say the hardest, but they're being hit very, very hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of them aren't going to make it through it, which is just terrible, to see somebody who spent 30 years building this, legacy, to have it literally overnight lose everything.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yep. So I look at it too as, it's a passionate industry. So there's a lot of fight in it. So we've already seen it, from different restaurants, different breweries, that guys are taking, driving some cans of their beer all the way to Tucson from Flagstaff, just to spread
They've
the word.
They've had to pivot, do what they, can do, deliver cocktails or, family meals, which everybody seems to love. So, yeah, I'm going to do the fried chicken at Beckett's Table at Southern Rail in a couple weeks. Have you guys done any of their take-home meals? They look amazing.
None of theirs. No. We've done a few of other ones.
Brett Vivers did the Wild Arizona Cuisine barbecue dinners have been pretty fantastic.
What do you call briskets and biscuits or something?
Yeah. But this week it's going to be ribs and smoked chicken.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's obviously unfortunate the places had to do this, but it's also inspiring to see places starting to make those other avenues of like, hey, we're doubling down on canning our beer, or hey, we're doubling down on putting our retail stuff out, right? In delivery, and for the ones that can make it through it, it's I think it can be exciting because they have almost another whole business that kept them afloat during this, added on with the, so. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see where it leads. Like one of my favorite chefs, he's in the cookbook, Duchamp. He has an Indian background, and his mother makes amazing, masala chicken and different, obviously, her spiced dishes. Yeah. So while he's furloughed from the hotel, he started a butcher delivery. And where you can get all these meats already marinated, and they are killer.
Is that Meat Wawa? Is that?
Yeah, Meat Walla.
Walla. Okay. Yeah.
I forget what Walla means, but there's a meaning behind what that phrase means. But and he's also one of the nicest people you can meet. So to be able to support him and be inspired about him coming up with this idea, I'm home. What do I do? I love the field. I love cooking for people. So. You should definitely look into that. You can buy it by the pound. You can get chicken, or he does like ground lamb kebabs. If you see his lamb ribs, get those.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put like a Google alert when it goes for sale on his website. Yeah. Yeah. But that's great though, because that shows, I don't know, these people are loving what they're doing, right? And it's like, no matter what happens, I'm still going to do this. Like it might change and might not be what I see it, and I mean, not of making light of it, because it can be very tragic for some people, obviously, but it's really inspiring to see that fight in people of saying, hey, you're not taking this away from me.
Right. And like you said, the love, like I love cooking so much, I'm going to find a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to stop me. You know what? You're going to send me to prison? I'll cook something in there. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So, what you just mentioned too, Phoenix, the Phoenix cookbook, Phoenix Cooks.
Yeah.
Beautiful book, by the way. Yes.
Actually, 2 weeks from today is the official launch date.
Okay.
So people who have pre-ordered it on Amazon, they usually get it the day it's released, but I've actually heard they're going to start shipping next week or this week. So they'll actually get it early. And then each chef who is in the book pre-ordered 100 copies.
Okay.
Which is what you've probably seen floating around where people can get advanced copies. So they got them in July. And I guess they're doing well. I know one restaurant just ordered 5 more cases. So
cases,
I'm
nice.
excited. Yeah, I'm very excited about that because again, it's the reason I started my website or Instagram. I didn't do it for me. That's why you don't see pictures of me eating the burger. It's the chef making the burger.
Yes.
Just I'd rather Plus, I hate my picture being taken, but it's all about, you know, the wineries. I wanted people to know about it. And now with the cookbook, I want people to say, wow, this is it in Phoenix. This is what these chefs are cooking, or this is the ingredients they're sourcing.
Yeah.
You know, I want people to use it as like a guide of where to dine and how to shop.
So tell us a little bit about your process of making the book.
Well, it's part of a series by Figure One Publishing out of Canada. And they started, I think they started with Toronto, maybe. So they eventually came into the US. They've done Portland, they've done South Bay, California. I forget how many total. So they approached me and said, would you be interested in this? And I was like, wow, that's right up my alley. So I tried to pick, you know, there's resort restaurants, there's mom and pop restaurants, there's Thai dishes, there's Japanese dishes, there's Korean, there's Southwestern, there's, you know, Brett Vibert foraging. And my editor said that the preface to his recipe was one of her favorites because he talks about how you're not going to the store to buy any of these ingredients. But I forget how he says it, something about you have to hear the wind in the trees and in the cattails to really appreciate what you make. So those things are all a little microcosm of what Phoenix has to offer and the chefs that live here.
And so when it came to writing, so the structure of the book is a write-up on the chef and then 2 recipes. Is that correct?
Right. So I did, the foreword is by Barbara Fenzel, who is very, very well, she's iconic. She's at the forefront of when our city started becoming a food city. And then I wrote an introduction, a little bit about some of the questions you've asked me and how I got to that point. And then each restaurant has an intro to the restaurant and the chef, and then 2 recipes, and they can be 2 dishes or 2 desserts or a cocktail and a dish. So I think there's 4 or 5 cocktails in the book.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, like Clever Koi, Cotton Copper, trying to think who else did. The Brickyard Downtown, you know, some of the people that I'm sure you've heard of. So it has a little bit of everything in it.
Well,
and so.
No, go ahead, Luke.
So when you're doing these write-ups, are you, you know, I figure because this is pre-COVID that you're going into the places and doing the write-ups as well, or doing the write-ups after talking with people, but then you also had a photo shoot after. What was kind of the process of actually creating the content that's in the book?
Well, they are so organized at Figure One Publishing. I mean, they were a dream to work with. So they took care of scheduling the photo shoot. They had slots, and the chefs just signed up for a slot one day, and they overlapped so that while one chef was finishing up and getting his portrait taken, the next chef was coming in and setting up his ingredients. And Joni Simon of The Bite Shot, who's an amazing person and has always been a huge supporter too. She started, I think I met her when she was doing podcasts on food, where she would do the same thing, you know, interview people to support them. So for us, we were like right on the same wavelength with, let's get the word about Phoenix. But the photo shoots were probably the most fun of everything.
Those looked awesome.
Yeah, it was just so fun. And you got to see chefs, you know, see somebody they hadn't seen in a long time, or, you know, come in and have fun. And they were impressed with how professional it was. In fact, Figure One even flew out their book designer for the first week. Because we split them up a little bit, so she could show Joni the vision. You know, she had a color board, a design board. Her name's Naomi, and she's amazing too. She has I think she has a design company of her own too. But she just, you know, she picked the colors of what she thought would represent Arizona. So you'll see a lot of colors that are like sand and our sunsets and our skies. So there's, you know, there's blues and grays and, you know, terracotta. So.
Yeah,
I think she really did a great job. Her and Joni really captured the essence, I think, of Arizona.
It's a beautiful book for sure. And I'm looking at all the recipes. So Brett Vibert brought me a book. So
nice.
Luke has to wait. We ordered one on Amazon. Yeah.
Well, I heard they're starting to ship like the 19th instead of waiting till September. So hopefully soon.
Good. Because it's beautiful, Luke. You're gonna love it.
Thank you.
I like the way it's laid out. I like just the finish of it. Like it's kind of like that matte finish, and it's kind of the whole thing is like that. But just I don't know, the pictures of just the chefs, like the smiles. I picture Brett Vibber because he's the last one. He's like, man, he's like, I was the last one, So he, it was just him, just the smile,
Yeah.
And when I was looking at the dishes, like, so I love how it's categorized in the different types of dishes. And there was one, I can't remember what it was, but as I'm reading it, my eyes were kind of, what? And I'm like, oh, that's gotta be Brett's. Like, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, it's Brett's.
It was
like,
Brett's.
It's like smoked salmon served on like a mesquite bark with, like some,
with, I think, cattail pollen.
That's what it was, cattail pollen. Because I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I can make this. And I'm like, where the hell do I get cattail pollen?
But did you notice he tells the reader where it grows?
Yeah.
He even tells you where to find the cattail pollen. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, Luke and I, we like to fancy ourselves as knowing the food scene a little bit. Then I start looking at them like, I know 6 of these people. That's it. Like, that's how, but it's very exciting, right? It's very exciting for people who are like, oh, this is awesome. There's all these other places. Cause I already have a list of places that I probably will never be able to visit them all. And that's of the places I know. So now you give me all these other ones. Come on. What are you trying to do to me, Christina?
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But
well, it's too bad because we were for the launch party. It's a big deal for the chefs because they are all invited with their families. So that before COVID, we were going, and then we would sell tickets to the public.
Yeah.
But we were going to have it at the Four Seasons, this big blowout launch party. And it would have been neat because everybody can get their books signed by the different chefs that would have been there. But, maybe we'll do it later or, find a way to do that. So I've had a lot of chefs say, I want to get it signed by everybody. Do you have any ideas on how we can do that? So after the official launch.
With the other chefs, that's great.
Right.
It's that mutual respect that's just like,
yes.
They're in envy. They're starstruck by their peers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is, what's the goal moving forward for you? Like when at the end of the day, what do you want to have accomplished?
Well, the cookbook, to write a book on wine and celebrate the winemakers and to do this and celebrate the chefs, I'm like, I'm good now.
Nice.
We had been in talks of maybe doing a Tucson book, but I feel like, I don't live into, like I could pick a good 10 right off the top of my head, but I feel like I'm not as ensconced in that scene. So, I suggested maybe down the line somebody else write that one. But then we also talked about an Arizona wine cookbook. So kind of doing, because they, the publishing company just did a Washington wine cookbook on the wines of Washington. So either that or you guys know, I'm always juggling a million things. I work full-time, a full-time job too. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, this was my dream, what I did. So I just want to relax and sit back. And, I've even say sometimes like, oh, I should take a break off of social media. But then, I go to a restaurant and I want everybody to see what the chef made. So that's not going to work.
Exactly. Dang it. Now I forget my password. I got to download a room on my phone anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if you decide to hang the hat up at this point, Christina, you've done an amazing job of representing what Arizona is.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. And that's
so nice of you.
When we were kind of starting to dabble in this idea of getting into food, and when I say the idea of getting into, I've been into food since I was born. Obviously, I can't say enough how much I love food. But we started getting into, really kind of digging into the food scene. I asked multiple, people that in the industry that I trust and that are my friends. And I'm like, who are your favorite food writers? Every time it was you, like hands down.
We have some amazing food writers, and I mean, I think we all collectively. That's another thing. Even the food bloggers and the influencers, we're all very supportive of each other. It's rarely that there'll be a little drama, But again, like, I'm that person who really tries to remove myself from any drama. But we really do have a very supportive community. You know, we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
We all have a different voice in the way we share it, but we all want the same thing. So
yeah,
it's really kind of heartwarming. And, you know, I never knew when I moved from Boston that, you know, Phoenix is just such a special place. So I'm proud to be here, and I'm excited that people listen and read what I write, because it's about the chefs and about that farmer and, you know, and about that cocktail guy or that pasta maker. So I'm just happy that people, you know, they get it. They get why we're you know, a food city that people should pay attention, you know, and we're underdogs. So I think that makes everybody more passionate too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I almost feel like I put myself at a disadvantage sometimes just so I could play at the disadvantage. It's like, it wasn't necessary. Yeah, I know what I need to do. That's what I play better from behind. And when I'm in the lead, you know, so, but no.
And then your book, I mean, you know, that was a labor of love for you guys too. What a great thing to spotlight the breweries and the people behind them and what they're doing. And I love, you know, the way that you design it too, you guys. Kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
That's a big project. I had publishing companies took care of that. I can't imagine doing the work and then doing that on top. So
yeah, it was, you know, it was a learning experience for sure. I'm sure Luke had the same. They probably had the same feelings when you were explaining the process of the, you know, they schedule it and the time slots were. I'm like, oh my god, that sounds like that would have been, you know, that would have been a dream. You know,
I'll tell you, it worked out. So they just sent it to all the chefs. Every chef just emailed and picked a slot, and then we had one makeup day for chefs who could, you know, were out of the town. So it was really over. I think we did it over 6 days. We did 3 days 1 week, and then 3 days, and then we did a makeup day, something like that. But yeah, it was smooth.
Yeah.
It was done really well.
Well, hopefully volume 2 for the beer book will be smoother. Hopefully we can implement those lessons we've learned. You know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know. How many new breweries have opened since you wrote the book?
Well, there's been, I don't know, 5, but we only highlighted 30. We had 35 breweries, a cider house, and meadery. So of the, say, 110, we only covered 35 of them. So we did that to leave it open for volume 2, volume 3. Because we didn't want it to be here are the top 10 or here are all of them. Like we wanted to snapshot of these ones. Here's a snapshot of these ones. And it's kind of divided up proportionately from northern and southern to metro area. That design, that was Luke. Luke was, when he first showed it to me, I mean, he's like, stop. Okay. All right. Keep going. But when, you know, I'm throwing ideas around, I'm like, oh, dude, I got notes in this one Google Drive. And I think there's in this other one. Oh, wait, hold on. I go in the OneNote. And then I see Luke's design and I'm like, whoa, that's a book. Like, it's not just notes on one.
It's
one
real.
Exactly. And then we got the books. And then when we got the books, and I'm sure the same for you, when you put those books in your hand and you're like, wow, it's amazing.
Even just seeing the cover, you know, when they said, okay, so here's the, you know, you get that email and you open it, you want to show everybody.
Yeah.
Here's the cover. But, you know, as all that work comes together, but, you know, but you still, at least me, both books, I'm like, oh, well, people like it, you know, because you don't get into it to make money. I think you guys know that, you know, unless you're J.K. Rowling or somebody, or they make a movie out of your cookbook, which of course never happens. But
I don't think they're going to do a Hollywood version of Arizona Beer Book. Nah.
But, you know, you do it to get the word out. So you're always just like, well, I hope the people in those pages like it. So
yeah, you know what?
I still hope that.
Absolutely. And one thing that I thought about just the other morning, just randomly, is so right when the book came out, there were a couple changes in breweries. Like there was one brewery that like the owner left and went somewhere else, and he was the focal point of the story, right? And then there was another brewery, Mother Bunch, and then they closed, right? So, but just the other morning, just randomly, I'm like, you know what? Like, and not to sound arrogant or anything, but we put a permanent stamp, something physical showing Mother Bunch, right? Mother Bunch has that 4-page. it's physical. You can see it.
You captured a time that will never happen again.
Exactly. And almost in a way, I feel like we made it impossible to forget about Mother Bunch. And I don't want to say, I hope that didn't sound the wrong way, but you know what I mean, right?
No, actually it's interesting you say that, because the culinary field is ever changing, and now with COVID, so there are restaurants that that are in here. We had a chef pass away suddenly, so I'm so happy. Chef Rick is in here, so his kids will have recipes of his in the book.
Yeah.
But there's chefs that are in a different state now, or the restaurant's not even called that anymore. But like you said, I had to look at it as it was a snapshot.
Yeah.
Of this time. So.
Yep. Exactly. So, well, Christina, as always, great talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Next place we go, or next time we meet, we were going to meet in person, and we're going to go to one of the new 17 restaurants you just added to my list, right? And we're gonna have the Christina specials, the ones that the best of the best. So.
And cocktails, I hope.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I meant the best cocktails. Yeah, the food was implied.
Well, I admire those many restaurants that opened up during COVID. Like you brought up Mario Rana. Yeah. And he's doing gangbusters up there,
Yeah. That food is, like for them to open, and then right next door, State 48, the Rock House, their beers have they've taken a lot of heat. They're restaurateurs, and people, you're not. They know, just because they know what they're doing doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? And there's a learning curve, especially when you grow. There's a learning curve with your product sometimes, right? But
that's what makes it heartfelt and heartwarming.
Yeah. If you come out of the gates I'm kind of like, wait a minute, like why is that so polished? Like is it? But I'm so excited to have those guys up here, and then Simple Machine Brewery and Front Porch Brewery right up here too, and yeah, it's just cool, and to see the neighborhoods, because I talk to these guys, say, hey, how's it going? Like, are you guys kind of staying afloat? Like, yeah, obviously they're like, it's tough. We've gone to package, we've packaged our beers a lot more and this and that, but they're like, the locals have shown out like amazingly. Like the neighborhood people stopping in to grab beer, or now some of them are able to open up, social distance, have beers at the bar. They're like, the locals come out and support us, and they're keeping them afloat. So that's great to hear.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Anything else, Luke? Anything else you can think of? Christina, anything else you want to do?
No, just order the Phoenix Cookbook off of Amazon. Get yourself an Arizona wine book. What's your website?
It's right on Rubee, the word right, WRITE, on RUBEE.com. And I have a section for the wine book, and you can actually order signed copies, personalized signed copies from there. I just shipped one out last week, I think.
Nice.
And then once, I don't have my copies of the book, the Phoenix Cooks yet, but I will have signed copies there. And I also have a list of all the restaurants that have copies of the book. So if you want to go and get a copy from your favorite restaurant and support them, because they get the proceeds of that, any books they sell.
Yeah.
Then that's a great way to get the book and support these guys.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again, Christina.
Thanks for having me.
Soon, cocktails in person.
Yes. Can't wait.
Yes. All right. Well, enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, guys, there you have it. Christina's an awesome writer, and she's just a blast to spend time with. Check out her website. She's got a list of awesome places that you got to visit. Make sure to follow her on social media, as well as the Taste of AZ. See you next time.